So, competition. It's everywhere we look. In nature, animals compete for territory, food, for mates. In sport, athletes compete for medals, trophies, championships. Even in the arts, we have the Oscars, the Grammys, the Golden Globes. In business, of course, we mainly compete for customers, or more specifically, we compete for customers' money. Now, competition is defined in the dictionary as striving to win or gain something by defeating or establishing superiority over others, which sounds pretty grim and selfish, yet it's generally held and widely accepted that competition is a force for good. It sorts the weak from the strong and ensures survival of the fittest, makes everybody raise their game, drives innovation. It sort of improves the herd. Competition in business has seen an explosion of academic and popular theories over the past 50 years. This era of the business school, the MBA, the management guru, and the business consultant has seen more words written on competition than any other subject. And yet, despite this effort and focus, an awful lot of competition still comes down to price. You ever wondered why all your competitors seem to offer similar products at similar prices? However much you try to steer your ship towards these fabled blue oceans of uncontested space, you find that your competitors are either already there or following close behind you. To find the answer, we have to look outside of the last 50 years of modern management thinking and look at the works of two dead economists, both born in the 1800s, because by understanding their principles, which we will get to in a little bit, we might just gain an insight that gives us a chance of escaping this soul-sapping drudgery of price competition. Now, I work with businesses all around the world, and while they each have a specific need they want to address, how do we position ourselves? What is our value proposition? How can we manage brand equity? What's the best way to segment our customers? How do we price efficiently, and so on? They are all subsets of the one big question every business wants to answer. How do we compete more effectively? Historically, size and scale have been critical factors in competing effectively. Popular business tools such as the growth share matrix, that's the one with the cash cows, the dogs, the rising stars, and so on. They use relative market share as a key driver of success. The PIMS database, which is the Profit Impact of Marketing Strategy database, provides empirical evidence across thousands and thousands of observations that a high market share is a key variable in predicting sustainable competitive advantage. Problem is, we sort of know intuitively that bigger is better when it comes to competing. It sort of explains success rather than helping you achieve success. You can't use being big as a strategy for getting big. So how most businesses who don't have the luxury of a high relative market share already end up competing is with some combination of minimal cost and maximum differentiation. Now, different methods on how to compete have been suggested in the modern era. The classic is Michael Porter's generic strategies from 1980 that state you have to choose to compete on one of three dimensions. You can be the lowest cost provider, be different, or focus. Another more recent approach was suggested by Michael Tracy and Fred Wiersma in their 1995 book, The Discipline of Market Leaders. They said that you also have to choose how to compete, but their choices were either product leadership, operational excellence, or customer intimacy, which by and large are the same as Porter. And this is where some confusion arises, the idea that you have to choose one approach in isolation. In reality, whatever competitive emphasis or method you choose, whether it's product leadership or customer intimacy, you will always be trading off between the benefits you offer your customers and the costs you incur in providing those benefits. And they have to be looked at together in order to make smart strategic choices. Now, you can look at this trade-off using a concept called a frontier curve or a Pareto optimality. Vilfredo Pareto is the first of our dead economists that I mentioned earlier. and is best known in the business world as the creator of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle. But what we are interested in is his lesser known work on efficiency. So the frontier curve is a simplified visual representation of allocating two preference criteria optimally. In our case, we have the criteria of non-price value added to the customer, or benefits if you prefer, which essentially is a measure of differentiation, and the costs we incur to offer those benefits. Now, within this two-dimension space, you can plot where your business unit sits. I'll explain how you do this in a future video, but for now, just stick with the principles. Pareto's theory states that at the current moment in time and for any market, there exists optimal points where it is impossible to offer more benefits to your customers from your existing cost base, and it is also impossible to reduce costs while maintaining and offering the same benefits. If you were to identify all of these optimal points across the whole range of possibilities, you get a curve, which represents a Pareto optimality. Every point along the curve is optimal, every point below the curve is possible but suboptimal, and points outside of the curve are impossible given today's technology and capabilities. Hence why it's called a frontier curve. As an example, take air travel. A best-in-class budget low-cost airline would be here. Low costs to provide the service and low non-price customer benefits. Now, private jet charter would be here. High costs to provide the service and very high non-price customer benefits. First class might be here, business class here, coach on a national airline here, and so on. So the first step in competing effectively is to understand where you sit in relation to your industry's frontier curve. Say you have identified your market's frontier curve and you plot where your business sits. Now, like the majority of businesses, you will probably be suboptimal. To be best in class, to be optimal, you could reduce costs while maintaining the value you add to customers, or you could reallocate costs to deliver more value, or any combination. Moving along this quadrant is what we call Pareto efficient. This means that you can improve one preference criteria without making the other worse. Most businesses in competitive environments, whether they know it or not, spend their time striving to be Pareto efficient. Now, a more bold strategic move is to choose a position that is optimal, that is, it sits on the frontier curve, but is outside of your existing Pareto efficiency. This means choosing to increase costs in order to deliver more value, or choosing to reduce the value offered in order to reduce costs, essentially moving towards a premium or a budget offer. Now, these moves are inherently risky, so consequently, most competitors don't make them, and instead cluster around offering similar value from a similar cost base, which in turn leads to price competition. There is another reason why most competitors cluster around each other and make similar products at similar prices, and this is the principle of minimal differentiation, explained by our second dead economist, the statistician and economic theorist Harold Hotelling, and is known as Hotellings Law. Hotellings Law is really an observation that explains why it is rational for producers to make their products as similar as they possibly can. He explained it quite neatly with a simple thought experiment involving two ice cream sellers on a beach who sell similar products at similar prices. So say we have a beach that's 2,000 meters wide and is evenly populated along its length by 500 people enjoying a day in the sun. Now, our ice cream vendors pitch their stalls at opposite ends of the beach. Now, rationally, nobody will walk further to get an ice cream than they have to, so each ice cream seller has 250 people who will rationally choose them over their rival, and consequently, they each have a 50% market share, and they're maximally differentiated in terms of location. Now, one of our sellers gets his calculator out and figures that if he moves his stall 500 meters down the beach, he will be the nearest option to 312 potential customers, leaving his rival with just 188, a 62% market share. Now, our rival isn't going to just sit there and let this happen, so he moves his stall 500 meters down the beach. Net result, the 50% market share is re-established, although both vendors now are less differentiated. Incidentally, this solution, the one where each vendor pitches their stall a quarter of the way down the beach, is the best solution for everyone. The average distance customers need to travel for their ice cream is at its lowest with this configuration. Unfortunately, as Adam Smith pointed out back in 1776, capitalism isn't driven by benevolence, it's driven by self-interest. It doesn't care about the greater good, it cares about the greater profit. So one of our vendors makes another bold strategic move and shifts his stall another 500 meters right in the middle of the beach. They now enjoy a temporary increase in market share to 75%. Of course, our other vendor isn't going to stand for this, not as long as he has wheels on his cart too, so he moves 500 meters to match his competitor. Now they each enjoy 50% market share once again, although now they are right next to one another. Their differentiation is zero, so the only way left to compete is on price. They have made the situation worse by rationally pursuing profit-maximizing behavior, which is exactly what you would expect competitive markets to do, and why you don't tend to see long-term sustained differentiation between competitors. So, thanks to Pareto's optimality and efficiency and Hotellings' law of minimal differentiation, we can see why most businesses compete with similar products at similar prices. The good news, you don't have to just shrug your shoulders and say, oh well, that explains that then. There's plenty you can do to break out of this gravitational pull of price competition. It's just that the traditional methods that many businesses pursue and employ are not the best way to achieve this. So subscribe below to get future videos where we will explore more of the principles of marketing and also offer some different methodologies and approaches that might just hold the key to your success.